Welcome, aviation enthusiasts and history buffs, to Classic Duels, a captivating mini-documentary series that takes you deep into the heart of the adrenaline pumping battles that unfolded in the skies during World War II. In this episode, we're in the skies in the Pacific Theatre in 1944-45, and we're going to talk about the high-up duels between the B-29 Superfortress and the Ki-44 Shoki, or Tojo. The aerial combat between the Nakajima Ki-44 Shoki and the Boeing B-29 Superfortress is a fascinating chapter in World War II aviation history, highlighting the challenges faced by Japan in countering the advanced capabilities of American heavy bombers, especially with the B-29 being a revolutionary bomber for its time. The Nakajima Ki-44 Shoki, known by its Allied reporting name Tojo, was a Japanese Army Air Force interceptor developed in the early 1940s. Unlike earlier Japanese designs, which prioritized agility, the Ki-44 was built with speed and climb rate in mind to intercept high-flying bombers. It was powered by a Nakajima HJ-109 radial engine and was capable of reaching speeds of over 370 miles per hour. Compared to other Japanese fighters, it had a rugged airframe and it had heavier armament, including four 12.7mm machine guns and either 20 or 40mm cannons, which helped make it one of the few Japanese aircraft capable of damaging the heavily armoured B-29. But the Shoki also had a reputation for being challenging to fly, especially for less experienced pilots. B-29 Superfortress was introduced by the United States Army Air Forces in 1944 as a long-range, high-altitude strategic bomber. It was equipped with pressurized cabins, advanced defensive systems, and a massive bomb payload capacity. Operating from bases in China, India, and later the Mariana Islands, B-29s targeted Japanese industrial centers, infrastructure, and cities in a strategic bombing campaign designed to cripple Japan's war economy. The introduction of the B-29 posed a severe challenge to the Imperial Japanese Army Air Service and the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service. The bomber operated at altitude and speeds that outpaced many Japanese fighters, and flew with defensive armaments that could inflict heavy losses on attacking aircraft. The first major encounters occurred when B-29s began operating out of bases in China, targeting Japanese industrial sites in Manchukuo and the Japanese mainland and home islands. The most intense period of this aerial combat occurred during the firebombing campaign against Japanese cities in late 1944 and 1945. The B-29 raids posed a unique challenge to Japanese defences. The Superfortress operated at altitudes and speeds that exceeded the capabilities of many Japanese fighters. The Ki-44 was among the first interceptors scrambled to counter these raids. Pilots quickly realised that the high-speed B-29s were challenging to engage, as they flew at altitudes near the operational ceiling of the Ki-44. Still, the Ki-44 was one of the few aircraft in the Japanese arsenal capable of intercepting the B-29, due to its excellent climb rate and relatively high service ceiling. But the heavily armed defensive formations of the B-29s and their fighter escorts of P-47 Thunderbolts and P-51 Mustangs still caused significant losses to Japanese interceptors. After the US captured the Mariana Islands, B-29 operations intensified, with regular raids on Japanese cities, including Tokyo. This escalation forced Japan to deploy the Ki-44 in greater numbers, often alongside newer fighters like the Nakajima Ki-84 Hayate. The Ki-44's armament was upgraded to include heavy cannons capable of damaging the B-29. Some Ki-44s were equipped with HO-301 40mm cannons, which were designed specifically for anti-bomber roles. However, these cannons didn't really do much to upgrade the Shoki's firepower, as it had a low muzzle velocity and limited range, requiring pilots to get dangerously close to the B-29 formations. And with flying dangerously close to the Superfortresses in mind, B-29's defensive armament, which included remote-controlled 50-caliber machine guns and tail-mounted 20mm cannons, were able to inflict severe casualties on the intercepting fighters. So, the Ki-44 pilots would rely on specific tactics to counter the heavily protected B-29s. Tojo squadrons would scramble as soon as incoming B-29 formations were detected, and the pilots would attempt to gain altitude advantage to dive into the bomber formations. But Ki-44 struggled to maintain parity with B-29 at higher altitudes, where its performance deteriorated. Its climb rate, while impressive, was insufficient to quickly intercept high-flying B-29s before they reached their targets. One of the most effective tactics was head-on attacks, where the bomber's defensive firepower was weakest, but this was also a highly dangerous manoeuvre for the interceptor pilots due to the closing speeds and the risk of collision. In desperation, some Ki-44 pilots resorted to ramming B-29s, particularly when ammunition was depleted or when they faced overwhelming defensive fire. These attacks, although courageous, were unsustainable and highlighted Japan's growing strategic disadvantage. Overall, the Ki-44 achieved some successes, with pilots shooting down B-29s. However, the overall kill-to-loss ratio was unfavourable. Japan's dwindling fuel supplies, lack of experienced pilots and training for newer pilots, and insufficient production of high-performance fighters such as the Ki-84 and Ki-100 further compounded the challenges. Plus, B-29's ability to operate from bases in the Mariana Islands after the fall of Saipan allowed for sustained and devastating bombing raids on the Japanese home islands, further overwhelming Japanese air defences. Battles between the Ki-44 Tojo and B-29 Superfortress epitomise the technological and strategic disparities between Japan and the United States during the latter stages of the war. While the Ki-44 was a capable interceptor for its time and achieved some successes in intercepting the B-29s, its impact was ultimately limited by the overwhelming superiority of American industrial and technological capabilities. Not only does that include the B-29's advanced design, but also the superior American fighters such as the Thunderbolt, Mustang, Hellcat, and Corsair. These confrontations also underscore the shift in air warfare, where long-range strategic bombing at high and lower altitudes at both day and night became a decisive factor. Despite their best efforts, the Ki-44 and other Japanese interceptors such as the Mitsubishi J2M Raiden or Jack could not stem the tide of destruction wrought by the B-29 raids, culminating in the firebombing of Japanese cities and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These events marked not only the end of Japan's resistance and the conclusion of World War II in the Pacific, but the Second World War as a whole. So that's it for this glimpse into epic struggles of the past. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with more riveting tales of aviation history, etc. Check out 2 videos at the end, or my CD reviews, or even the playlists I've created. Cheers.